Hello, Envy Board of Energy. Today I'm here to discuss the current policies and goals of becoming carbon neutral as it currently stands here at the corporation. I'm here to speak on behalf of nuclear power as a superior alternative to that of fossil fuels. Because as you guys are aware of, the world's going through a transformation right now. We have been modernizing the world at an amazing rate. The usage of the fossil fuels, including coal power, oil, and natural gas. And this has been amazing, but according to the Research Institute of Mauna Loa, carbon dioxide peaks near 420 ppm at Mauna Loa Observatory, published as of 2021. We have been able to somehow change the entire Earth's climate at a very unprecedented rate, which has been very, very problematic for the increase of natural disasters in time of recent history, which is why we need to make a transfer to renewable sources as quickly as possible, and that is why I'm here to say nuclear power is the best viable option compared to all available alternatives for reasons of public health, reliability, and climate change. First, I will talk about the problems that we currently have with fossil fuels, as stated previously, on public health, the environment, and just the overall economic markets. Second, I will talk about how nuclear power works and why it's the best. And finally, I will show the two different worlds that we could be living in the future. The current issue that we have with fossil fuels, even though, yes, we have been able to modernize the entire world in general, has been public health. As seen in the study in Poland by Persuasive, written in 2019, Governing Energy While Neglecting Health, was greatly discussing how susceptible populations of older people, the elderly, and younger people have been affected by respiratory illness, as seen by the amount of PM particles in the air that causes reduced development, affecting children to increase their rates of asthma in their later years, along with affecting long-term function. Therefore, older people having a harder time with dealing with various health issues in terms of breathing. And then the chemicals known as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide have been problematic as well, as sulfur dioxide causes corrosion of the alveoli within the lungs, and nitrogen dioxide causes inflammation of which then correlates with asthma and bronchitis. Along with the environmental consequences of these chemicals as well, sulfur dioxide in particular, that's destroys entire streams and estuaries because of the increased acidification and the leaching of these chemicals into the soil, which ceases to allow for newer trees to grow. Along with the issue that we have seen economically, like guys, remember that oil embargo back in the 1970s, as stated from Mossman Renewable Energy Debate in 2019? Yeah, that was a thing. Along with the whole 2020 shortages that are just affecting everybody all across the board, as stated by Natural Gas Industry by Stubb in 2019. It's been very interesting of a time, just because for the longest time, many economists thought that natural gas was very cheap and it would not be as affected, but as Stubb writes, we're seeing otherwise. And that is why nuclear energy is the best option for alternative, because it is not affected by these fluctuations in the global markets. Because when we are sourcing even if we source outside of the current area of which we operate the nuclear power plant, we export enough of the uranium so then we can last into the long run. Because of the fact that this is nuclear fission, we take uranium atoms and split these and therefore produce energy as such. Completely carbon neutral, no carbon dioxide or particles that are produced in the environment. In fact, there's a study to testify for this, Public Health Effects of Airborne Radioactive Effluents from Nuclear to Coal-Fired Power Plants by Pearson, written in 2021, who demonstrated that by studying the populations around nuclear compared to coal power plants, the more radiated people were the ones who lived around coal power plants in comparison to less radiated nuclear power plants, which was very interesting. And not to mention that nuclear is more reliable than solar and wind, because with solar, sometimes the sun's not shining and we can't produce energy. sometimes the wind's not blowing and we can't produce wind power. Not to mention, as seen by land needs for wind and solar dwarf nuclear, written in 2015, shows how a large amount of land is required for solar and wind farms in order to function at the current rates as it stands with the technology that we have, which is why, currently speaking, we do need the ability to grow more energy on a more substantial level. And then there are shortcomings to nuclear technology which will be discussed, but these disadvantages should not be completely disregarded, as seen from nuclear power for 21st century is nuclear power to high fuel costs and global warming, written in 2010. The downsides include nuclear waste, which current technology is allowing for us to be able to recycle nuclear waste so that it is less volatile and just sits for possibly hundreds of years, along with how we could argue that it would be better to have nuclear waste as the only waste product and store that hundreds of miles away from all human civilization and people, unlike with the current model that stands with fossil fuels and coal power, that we burn all of this fuel and then we allow for people to breathe in the waste product that is from these combustion reactions. And many proponents also state that this is very dangerous, as seen from incidents like Chernobyl. However, as seen from coal and gas are more harmful than nuclear power by Karacha, written in 2013, nuclear power has among the lowest fatalities of all of the energy sectors, which is a substantial claim to make, and I was surprised by that as well. And then many also state that the energy is non-renewable, but that should not take away from the fact that this is carbon neutral. One of the big things that we need right now is just more time for research and development into the current technologies, so then we are able to better prepare ourselves for the future. And that is why there are two futures that could be considered for this current predicament that we have. Either we can embrace a new technology that has the ability to sustain us, that has shown its own worth, and have less overall carbon in the atmosphere, leading to global warming and catastrophic events, and therefore being able to carve out more time. Or we can have a future where our current world is still affected by giant fluctuation prices, along with different changes in political and different kinds of instabilities that could be more remedied if we had chosen other options that currently stood. And that's why, in conclusion, what we do today will have an impact on our children and their children's children for the future, because it will be the world that they inhabit. That is what, and I first discussed today the issue of fossil fuels, and then second, I discussed why nuclear energy is the better alternative in comparison to the other ones such as wind, solar energy. And then finally, I discussed two types of future in store for us depending on what kind of technology is embraced. Nuclear power is the best viable option that I hope that all the executives here will be able to understand and to be able to at least consider the idea of embracing a setup of this sort. That is why I thank you for your time, and I thank you for being here to be able to listen to my talk. I hope that you truly do consider this in the time that is to come for when we are to embrace a carbon neutral model for the future.